CPAC. We're having a great day here on day one of this wonderful event. Conservatives, Republicans alike, all joining together to just really come up with different ways to help one another and talk about some of the issues going on in our country, a lot of them, unfortunately, and how we can better America. I'm joined now by Mark Chenoweth, who is with New Civil Liberties Alliance. So good to see you.
That's right, yeah.
How are you doing?
You never know who's lurking in the hallways here
yes,
at CPAC.
Yeah, that's true. You never know who you're going to run into. So glad you stopped by the booth. Busy time for you. You have 3 court cases in the courts right now. Let's talk about the censorship of social media. We know that a lot of people watching right now are on social media across the board, and they feel like they just don't have a voice. And if they do have a voice or try to have a voice, they'll be censored.
It's shocking the extent to which this administration has cracked down on free speech online. And when we started this lawsuit, and it's going to be in the Supreme Court, argued in the Supreme Court next month, March 18th is oral argument day. But when we started this case, we did not know the extent of the censorship that was taking place. And I have frankly been shocked, Vanessa, with what we've discovered in the course of this investigation and in the course of this lawsuit. But we have had coordinated campaigns across, including people from the White House, from CDC, from the Surgeon General's office, from multiple federal agencies that have really cracked down on social media, cracked down on free speech on social media. And if I could give you one example,
sure.
One of our clients, this isn't the case that we're arguing in the Supreme Court, but in one of our other cases, our client volunteered for the vaccine trials. So this isn't someone who's anti-vaccine. She volunteered for the trials.
Right.
And she was injured as a result of participating in the trials pretty severely. And so she wanted to set up some online opportunities to talk to other people who might have gone through something similar. That was shut down by the government. They went to the social media companies repeatedly and had her support groups shut down. So, and this was truthful speech that she was engaged in, right? She was diagnosed by the National Institutes of Health as having been damaged by the vaccine during the trials process, and yet she's not allowed to talk about that on social media because it's against the government's narrative. So how frustrating is that? How shocking is that? How violative of the First Amendment that someone can't even have a support group on social media. Right,
and we're seeing a lot of that, and we have been seeing that in the last couple of years, that our First Amendment rights are being taken away from us. And I know we're focusing on social media, but you hear all the time, Mark, you're going to Facebook jail, for example, or YouTube is banning you or shutting down your account or suspending your account. And so people they want to get the word out. And in the case you just brought up, I would love to hear from her because she has a firsthand account. It happened to her. And she's not allowed to talk about what personally happened to her. And she's just one of millions of people out there who want to talk, and they feel like they just don't have a voice.
Yeah, that's right. Bree Dressen, by the way, is our client's name. And depending on what happens in the Supreme Court case next month, will affect what happens with her case as well. But it's just, it's not, sometimes people do talk about Facebook or before the ownership change, Twitter shutting people down. And unfortunately, private companies can do that, but not if the government is telling them to do it. The government can't do indirectly what it's forbidden to do directly by the First Amendment, and that's what's happening right now.
Right, and I think that social media sites like Twitter, which is now X, run by Elon Musk, that's gotten better. You have Truth Social, President Trump's social media account. Truly, Mark, that's the only place I really feel comfortable that I can go and post what I want, and that's why President Trump came up with this social media account or the platform, is for people to have a voice.
Well, and competition on social media is a wonderful thing. I think that's something that conservatives and people who believe in free markets believe in competition. But when the government is shutting things down, then that's not allowing for that competition to take place.
So what are we expecting next month? It goes to the Supreme Court. How are you feeling about that so far?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good about it. We've had a federal judge in Louisiana issued an injunction against the administration. That was stayed temporarily while this appeal is taking place, but large parts of the injunction were upheld on appeal at the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, and now that's what's going up to the Supreme Court. So they may or may not uphold the entirety of the injunction against the various agencies of the administration that have been engaging in censorship. But I feel strongly that if the justices look at the record, if they see the amount of censorship that's taken place, the things that have been censored, the truthful speech, by the way, that's been censored. And this isn't, and by the way, the government isn't allowed to censor you just because it's false. True speech and false speech, that's not the line that the government's allowed to police. It's legal speech and illegal speech, right?
Correct.
If someone's putting child porn on the internet,
right,
the government can take that down. That's
as
illegal.
they should.
As they
yes.
should.
Yes.
But that's not the same as true speech versus false speech, which is the line that this administration is trying to police.
All right, well, we'll continue to follow that case. Thank you for fighting for our First Amendment. You're also fighting for our Second Amendment, another case going on right now that you're dealing with in the Supreme Court. It has to do with our Second Amendment rights, bump stocks. Where are you at with that?
So this case is actually going to be in front of the Supreme Court next week. So we'll be up there at council table, looking forward to that. And the real issue in this case, it does involve bump stocks, but the question is, can the ATF ban bump stocks without the involvement of Congress? What happened here, rather than go to Congress and say we would like to have this sort of gun control, instead ATF just issued a rule and said we're going to ban this device, which, by the way, a bump stock by itself is just a piece of plastic. It's not, you'd have to attach it to a semi-automatic weapon.
Right.
And even then, it doesn't turn it into a machine gun. But ATF pretends that attaching a bump stock to a semi-automatic weapon turns it into a machine gun, and therefore they banned them and said, well, these are illegal. 500,000 of them were sold at a point in time when ATF had said these are completely legal, and they turned these people into felons overnight. Everyone who bought these devices, and they said, if you don't turn it in, then you're facing a 10-year prison sentence.
Wow.
Well, that's not something a federal agency can do. Congress is the only one that the Constitution empowers to write criminal laws, not the ATF. And so that's what we're going to try to convince the Supreme Court of. And by the way, we won this case below at the Fifth Circuit as well, 13-3. So it was a bipartisan decision at the Fifth Circuit. And I think it will be at the Supreme Court as well, actually. I think it's pretty clear that ATF overstepped here.
And when is that case going to be heard?
It's going to be heard on February 28th.
Okay,
so if people want to tune in to the live stream of the Supreme Court oral argument, they can do that. And we'll have a decision by the end of June. Mark
Chenoweth, so good to see you. Thanks for your fight that you're helping with Americans' First Amendment, Second Amendment, and those two cases what we talked about particularly. If people want to follow you in your fight in these cases, how can they do so?
NCLAlegal.org is our website. NCLA, New Civil Liberties Alliance, NCLAlegal.org. You can go there, and we have pages on all of our cases. We probably have 40 or 50 cases going against the federal government right now, believe it or not, including on student loan debt forgiveness and a whole bunch of other things that this administration is trying to get away with.
Absolutely. We're not going to let them get away with it.
We're fighting hard.
Yes, we are. So good to see you. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll be following closely.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back here at CPAC. I'm Vanessa Broussard, and we'll see you right after this break.